It's the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min, and we are live. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello, welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this edition, we're going to be looking ahead to the big game tonight. Big game, I should say, between Benfica and Arsenal, taking place in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. It's massive, and with our league form being the way it's been all season, the significance of this game just increases. We're talking about Arsenal realistically looking at the Europa League and probably thinking that is the best way from which we can get ourselves back into the Champions League. It's not going to be easy, mind you. Plenty of really good sides in the division. So we're going to have to, in the competition, I should say. So we're going to have to be at our best. It is a cup competition and things, can be great, they can be glorious, but they can also take a turn for the worse very, very quickly, as we've seen in years gone by. Add to that, it's a very strange Europa League this season because of the fact that, for example, our home leg is having to be played in Athens. Our away leg, we're going to Rome rather than Portugal. So it's all a little bit strange this season. And with away goals still counting, I'm not really sure what to make of this competition. We've seen it already a couple of times in the Champions League this week, where teams have had to play in neutral stadiums. And I know there's no fans in the ground and all of that, but I think obviously having to travel to somewhere where initially where ordinarily, you would have been playing at home, obviously is a disadvantage. Just being in unfamiliar surroundings doesn't help. So there's a lot to get your head around in this Europa League this season. There's a lot to try and make sense of. So we're going to have to see how this all pans out. But we did a really deep preview on the game against Benfica yesterday on the channel. It's available in podcast format as well if you're listening via the podcast. And I was joined by Tom Kunda, who is a Portuguese football expert. And he came onto the program to talk with me a little bit about Benfica and how their season has gone so far, because obviously, we can claim to be experts about all football, but the reality is I don't watch a great deal of Benfica. I don't watch a great deal of Portuguese football. Caught them a couple of times in the Europa League this season when they played Rangers, but that's about it. A lot of noise coming out of Portugal and Lisbon in particular, suggesting that they're nowhere near their best. They're experiencing a really bad season under Jorge Jesus, who's now enjoying his second spell at the club. But it was great to catch up with Tom because we got some insight into perhaps maybe what's gone wrong at the club. We also got some insight into how they might play. He picked out a few players as well that Arsenal should be looking out for. So, really interesting chat that, and check it out if you haven't already. Big hello to everybody joining me live in the chat box. Hope you are all well. Don't forget to smash the like button if you haven't already. Follow us, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you're interested in becoming a member and gaining access to some of our members-only content, which is dropping a little bit later this week than usual because we wanted to get the Benfica game out of the way. So that'll be dropping for you guys tomorrow. So get involved in the membership scheme if you so wish. And you can do that by clicking on the link in the description. This is not the only show we're bringing you today. We're going to be doing this one. We're going to be doing the live watch along from 7:45. Of course, kickoff is at 8 p.m. And then we're going to be reviewing the game afterwards around about 10 p.m. This evening. So that'll be interesting too. So hope to see you guys for as many of those shows as you can possibly make. It's always great to have your company in the live chat box. Right. quick reminder before I get into my starting 11, a little bit about the tactical side of the game, and of course my prediction. If you could be so kind as to check out our sponsors, which are manscaped.com. If you enter the code 90min20, 90min20, you'll receive 20% off as well as free shipping on your order. So yeah, great products, great stuff. As I showed you guys last night on the social club, I got some new bits come through yesterday. Crop mop ball wipes. There you go. A replacement blade for the Lawnmower 2.0, and perhaps even more impressively, a Manscaped refined cologne, which is fantastic. So check out manscaped.com. Lots of brilliant products available over there. And we thank them for their continued support of the show. Right, let's share with you guys my 11 for the game against Benfica this evening. I've got two teams on the screen today because I want to run through a couple of tactical bits as well. Arsenal in the red if you're watching on the video, and Benfica in the blue. If you're listening via the audio, don't worry, I will explain everything in detail. So in terms of my starting lineup, this is how I'm going to go. I think it's a no-brainer when it comes to the goalkeeping position. There is a very clear number one at the Emirates Stadium, and it is Bernd Leno. Of course, missed the game at Aston Villa recently due to suspension, but he's back, played against Leeds the other day, and I expect Bernd Leno to continue in the goalkeeping position. I think the fullbacks, pretty straightforward. Hector Bellerin will play at right back, and I expect Cedric to continue at left back. Now, Kieran Tierney is back in training, but when Mikel Arteta spoke to the media yesterday ahead of this one, he confirmed that Kieran Tierney had only had one training session so far since returning. So having had just one training session, I don't think it will be wise to start Kieran Tierney. We've seen he's very susceptible to injury at the moment. We know he's a very, very important player, an important part of this team, and we simply cannot rush him. For what it's worth, I think Cedric has been a pretty decent deputy playing at left back. Apart from that sort of lapse early on in the game against Aston Villa, he's done a really solid job, and I don't think too much should be made of that mistake. You know, it is a mistake, but these things happen in football, unfortunately. Just before I move on, let's pick out a couple of your comments on the team I've picked so far. Josh says Tierney shouldn't be rushed in. Agreed. T Talks, one of our members, says reason on why you wouldn't start Ryan. Just because I think there's a real clear number one at Arsenal, and the Europa League is you know, it's always been important for us, given the reward at the end of it, which would be qualification back into the Champions League as well as a European trophy. But I just think that Bernd Leno is very clearly Arsenal's number one. Mikel Arteta will want to play his number one. He's shown all season, really, hasn't he, that unless he's had to change the goalkeeper, he's not done it as often as maybe previous managers did. You know, you looked at some of the previous managers and you said they very clearly had a 1 and a 2. With Mikel Arteta, I don't think that's the case. I think he's very big on sticking with his number one. And as Sam says in the comments, Arteta doesn't do cup goalkeepers. And I kind of agree with that. And I think that's why I expect Bernd Leno. Look, at the end of the day, Bernd Leno is a better goalkeeper than Matt Ryan, in my opinion. And so, given the significance, the importance of this tie, he plays for me as the number one. Moving in to centre back. Now, this is a position that there is much debate around. Does Rob Holding come back into the side? Because, of course, Rob Holding was rested for the game against Leeds United the other day. He was on the substitutes bench. I think he does. I think Rob Holding probably should come back into the side. I think he's been really good of late, really reliable. And yeah, I think I'd go with Rob Holding. Now, the position of left centre-back, this one is where it's contentious for me. A lot of people were giving David Luiz stick after the game against Leeds United. I heard a number of people talking about maybe he should have defended better on Leeds' first goal and maybe even on the second. I actually disagree. I think David Luiz, you know, I think anyone would have struggled to defend those situations. I talked about it in the review show when you're talking about Pascal Struijk's goal. You know, you're talking about a player who was coming in on the run And when you make the run and you've got that momentum and you leap, it's very difficult for someone in a standing position, I always think, to match that intensity and to compete for the ball aerially. So, Rob Holding will start at centre-back for me alongside David Luiz. That's what I would go with. I know a lot of you are going to disagree. I just think we need that little bit of experience. We're talking about someone who will know Benfica inside out as well. Obviously, former player there, much loved, as Tom alluded to, by the Benfica fans even now, despite having left so many years ago. But I think David Luiz should be the one to partner Rob Holding. Why? Because I think with David Luiz, it gives us the ability to bring the ball out a little bit. And that's been a feature of our play of late. We did it really, really well against Leeds at the weekend. I'm not sure that either Gabriel or Rob Holding are good enough at doing that. And I think that progression is going to be important. I think the experience will come in handy as well. And I'm going to come on to talk about sport. I almost said Sporting Lisbon. The Benfica fans won't like that. And we're going to come on to talk about Benfica's setup a little bit as well. And that will kind of give you a bit more understanding of why I've gone with David Luiz. In the midfield pivot, I think this picks itself. Granit Xhaka has been one of the first names on the team sheet for Mikel Arteta throughout the course of the season, and understandably so. I think he's been really good, really solid. Contrary to what some Arsenal fans will tell you, he's had a good season so far. Barring that stupid moment against Burnley where he got himself sent off. Granit Xhaka has been one of Arsenal's most consistent and best performing players. So he plays there for me, and he will play alongside Dani Ceballos, given that Thomas Partey is still unavailable and has not travelled to Rome for this one. He's training by himself at the moment, Thomas Partey, so he is not ready just yet. Moving into the wide and the attacking midfield positions. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Martin Ødegaard, I think, made a case the other day as to why he should probably get a game. But I think I'm just about going to go with Emil Smith-Rowe here. He's been really good since he's come into the side. And I think Emil Smith-Rowe has probably that understanding with Alexander Lacazette and Bukayo Saka, who, well, I've given it away, but are both in my side as well. And so I think the combination of those three has been really impressive since Smith-Rowe and came into the side and Saka moved out to the right flank. So that would be my three there. And on the left-hand side, well, Nicolas Pepe's played well of late. Martin Ødegaard, as I said, made a case as to maybe why he should start. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you cannot overlook a Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang who's coming into this one fresh off the back of a hat-trick. We saw Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang back to his best at the weekend, and that's what we need, a Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang who's fit, who is firing, and I really look forward to seeing him in an Arsenal shirt again tonight, because I think he very much is a confidence player, and I like the way he's kind of he's worked his way back into form despite going through some difficulties off the pitch. He's kept plugging away, and finally his break came in the game against Leeds United. He got a hat-trick. He looked brilliant. He looked sharp as ever. Played up front, but actually started from that left position quite often in that game. So I think the graphics before the game were a little bit misleading. I think actually Martin Ødegaard and some of the other players, Bukayo Saka, were occupying those central areas or drifting into those central areas, and often Aubameyang would pull out to the left and make himself useful from there. So that's the team I'm going to go with. So just to run through that once more, for those of you who are listening via the audio, it's Bernd Leno in goal, a back four of Hector Bellerin, Rob Holding, David Luiz, and Cedric, with Ceballos and Xhaka as the midfield pivot, and Emil Smith-Rowe just ahead of them, with Aubameyang on the left, Saka on the right, and Alexander Lacazette through the middle. So that is my team to face Benfica this evening. If you've got anything different in mind, let me know in the chat. I'll read them out. Love to hear from you guys as well. Love to see different opinions as well. So get involved in the live chat box. Yeah, I look forward to picking up those comments. Harry Land says he'd go Pepe, Ødegaard, Martinelli as the three, with Oba up top. He says he feels like Saka needs and deserves a rest. I agree with you. He probably needs one. He probably deserves one as well. But Saka's been so outstanding of late. I just think you can't rest players in this game tonight, mate. I just think that this is a huge game for us. You look at where we are in the league, and yes, the European places are not so far out of reach that it's impossible. But I do worry about our ability to put a run together, particularly with the games we've got coming up in the Premier League. We've got Manchester City on Sunday. We've got Spurs coming up. We've got Leicester coming up. We've got West Ham United coming up as well, who have been in fine form this season. So I do worry about what this next run of Premier League fixtures is going to bring. And I've been sitting there thinking about it for a couple of days now. I probably think that weighing everything up, the Europa League has to be prioritized somewhat. So yeah, I agree with you that he probably needs one and probably deserves one, but I just don't think this is the time to do it, if I'm honest. But great input as ever, mate. Thank you so much. Sam says, I agree, go strong tonight and get ahead in the tie. Crimson Ninja says, this game Arsenal should win because Rangers, if they defended better, they would have beaten Benfica twice this season. What else have we got here? Nishith, looking ahead to that City game, says, I don't want to get battered by City 5-0 if we put a strong lineup and still play the same players versus City. Won't go down well in the history books. Yeah, but I think Mikel Arteta has to make a decision here, doesn't he? He has to make a decision on what way he's going to go with this, because Arsenal's season could prove to be a disastrous one. Imagine we finished in a lower league position than we did last year and crashed out of the Europa League at this stage. It would be a bit of a disappointing season, or largely disappointing season. So I think Mikel Arteta will probably recognise that the only way he can salvage this season would be to qualify for Europe. And at this minute in time, when you look at the Europa League, the fact it's a cup competition, the fact that Mikel has traditionally done quite well in cup competitions, you have to say that this feels like the safer route to go down. A lot of those teams in the Europa League you look at and you think Arsenal on their day could beat them. Of course, there are some difficult opponents in there, and the English clubs probably being the standout ones. But you never know. The draw could go your way. Somebody could crash out to somebody else, and things can fall into place quite nicely with a cup. So you got to wait and see. But for me, I just weighing everything up. This is the way I see it. Saeed Abdullah has gone with Leno, Bellerin, Holding, Luis, Cedric, Xhaka, Ceballos, Odegaard, Pepe, Martinelli, Lacazette. So no Aubameyang, interestingly, in his side. Tofa says, I would play Laka, Pepe, Emil Smith-Rowe and Saka. That front four is our best four. In my opinion, they will tear apart Benfica if they are up for it. And he's gone for 4-1, by the way. Jabulani says, Mikel doesn't do weekend lineup, strong lineup today and strong lineup on Sunday. We keep all options open. Yeah, look, in an ideal world, we do. We keep all options open. But the problem is this is not an ideal world, and you have to be realistic about Arsenal's chances of getting something against City at the weekend. City are in such fine form that Arsenal would have to be at their absolute maximum, and City would have to have an off day, essentially, because they've been that good of late that it's going to be difficult. Maybe with the cushion that they have at the top of the Premier League now, they'll be a little bit they'll be focused on the game that's to come in the Champions League for them, which is of course of huge importance. So perhaps that will play in our favour. I don't know, but for now the focus is on Benfica, and we have to get the result that gives us the best chance of progressing against Benfica. I know it's easy to get distracted by what's to come, but for me, having looked at what's to come and what that could mean and how we will tackle that when we get to it, I feel as though right now we've got to just take it each week as it comes, and Benfica today has to be the priority. Great point as well from T Talks, who says we've got 5 subs, plenty of opportunity for players to come off early if we get a decent lead. Another great point. Right, couple of bits on Benfica now. As I said, we did a review show yesterday with Tom, which you can You can check out. It's available on the channel. But what I wanted to kind of point out was a little bit about the system and the shape with which Benfica are expected to line up. Now, Benfica, they play in this really odd format. It's not an odd formation. It's a 4-4-2 essentially, but there are caveats to that 4-4-2. Jorge Jesus has used this formation for a while. It's synonymous with him. He plays with two strikers. He plays with two wingers who are given the freedom to get up in attack, but with two very deep lying midfield players, almost as though he's playing with two number sixes. You know, just they sit in front of the defense. And one of the ways Arsenal could potentially expose Benfica, you'd think, is in the wide areas, because if those players are pushing forward in the wide positions, you would hope that Arsenal would be able to exploit these areas. But where Arsenal are not going to get much joy, I don't think, based on Jorge Jesus' system, is in this area here. And that area is just in front of the back four. You know, this area here, you expect Benfica to be pretty watertight in that position based on what we know about Jorge Jesus' sides. There's been issues there this season because Adel Taarabt, who many of you will remember from his days in the Premier League, is one of those deep line midfield players normally. And we all know that he's not that type of player. He's a flair player. He's somebody who will want to get on the ball, dictate things and make things happen, and has, I guess, the the desire to attack and to take people on and to get into the final third. That's what he has done throughout his career. But in this Benfica side, if he does play, he's playing a very different role. So I've highlighted that area for those of you listening on the audio, just in front of the back four, just in front of Benfica's back four, on the edge of their penalty area, where I think that they'll be quite solid and where Arsenal should probably look to divert the majority of their play away from. Now, what we've seen Emile Smith-Rowe do brilliantly since he's come into the team, and it's largely why, I think he probably just edges it on Odegaard at the moment, but it's another reason as to why I've leaned towards him in my selection, is because he's done this really well. He's drifted out to the left-hand side and combined with the left winger. He's also done that on the right flank and combined really well. And with Lacazette able to drop short as well, what you're getting and what you're seeing quite often is you're seeing these triangles developing between the wide player, the centre forward, and then, of course, Emile Smith-Rowe, who's going out there and making himself an extra man. So he's done that brilliantly. He's caused the overload. But what he can also do really well, Emile Smith-Rowe, is when Saka does pull wide, when Alexander Lacazette, for example, does drop into that slightly deeper position to pick up the ball, Emile Smith-Rowe is not afraid to run into this half space here. He's not afraid to access that space between the fullback and the centre back and create that overload. And we've seen him time and time again from this kind of position pull balls across the penalty area and lay off chances for other people. So Emile Smith-Rowe does that really well, and probably does that based on what we've seen. And I know you could argue the sample size has been really small, but I would say that he does that better than anybody in this squad, and probably better than Martin Odegaard at the moment. So for that reason, and the fact that I think Benfica are going to try and pack up that midfield just in front of the defence, they'll be looking to protect that area very carefully. I think that Emile Smith-Rowe's versatility, whereby he can pop up on the left, pop up on the right, get involved in interchangeable sort of bits of play with the likes of Saka and Laka in particular, because we've seen him do it to great effect. I think that gives us the advantage, that gives us the upper hand. And I think those wide spaces and the half space in between the left back and the left centre back, or the right back and the right centre back, are going to be key for Arsenal here. What this also does by having Aubameyang on the left hand side is, if Arsenal can work these opportunities, can expose these spaces with Saka, Lacazette and Smith-Rowe, Aubameyang, natural instinct is always, isn't it, to drift into the penalty area from that left-hand side. And if he can do that to good effect, and Arsenal can work opportunities on this right-hand side to pull balls back, then you feel as though Arsenal could hurt this Benfica side. Otamendi and Vertonghen are the two centre-backs at Benfica. And actually, I said at the start of the preview show that I felt they were two players we could get at. Tom, our Portuguese football expert, actually said that they've done quite well, the pair. that comes as a surprise to me. But I think obviously the pace in Portugal is a little bit different. The intensity with which the game is played is different as well. And I expect that a Premier League side like ourselves, with the talent that we have in those attacking areas, should be able to give those two a real torrid time. And you want to get in behind them. You want to make them turn and run back to their own goal. As I said, I think they'll sit probably on the edge of their own penalty box. And that's where the intricacies need to come in. Otamendi, clumsy player. He's shown that time and time again when he's been playing for Manchester City in the Premier League. So I think they're two players that we can look to expose. And I think Arsenal will look to create problems in those wide areas, in those half spaces with Emile Smith-Rowe, if it is him that plays there, or Martin Odegaard, if he's the man that goes out there, looking to get into those positions and pick people out in the penalty box. So those are some of my thoughts ahead of this game against Benfica. Now it's time for you to get your predictions in the chat box. I will share mine as well. I'm going to go for I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 Arsenal win. Because I feel like we're playing really good football at the moment. And I know we've had a couple of disappointing results in the Premier League of late, but I don't think they were necessarily deserved. I think Arsenal have been better than what their recent results have shown in terms of the performance levels. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 win to the Arsenal. Don't forget, you can join me as well tonight on the live watch along, 7:45 p.m. I'll be going live via this channel. If you're listening via the audio, you can come over to the YouTube channel, join us there for the live watch along. Look forward to watching the game in many of you guys' company. So yeah, looking forward to it. Big game this evening. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box in terms of your predictions for tonight's game. Rory's gone for a 1-0. Is that 1-0 to Arsenal or 1-0 to Benfica? Steve Stone's gone for a 2-1 win to the Arsenal. Robin, 2-1 to the Arsenal. T-Talks has gone 3-1 Arsenal. Chris says every game is hard for this Arsenal team, so I'll go with a 2-1 Arsenal. Tofa's very optimistic. He's gone with a 4-1 win, and he's even named the scorers Laka, Saka again, and Martinelli. J04 hasn't given us a specific prediction, but says Arsenal need an away goal at least. Go out all out for this game because even the A team would lose to Manchester City. Xander's gone for a 4-0 Arsenal win. Saeed Abdullah, 3-0 Arsenal. Ebby Vander agrees with me, 2-0 Arsenal. Dave Atkinson says 3-1 to the Arsenal. What else have we got? We've got a couple more 2-1s. Adam says 2-1 Arsenal tonight, 4-1 over 2 legs. Freddie Owusu's gone for a 2-0 to the Arsenal, says it's going to be a David Luiz masterclass. I'd love that. Rory's prediction was to the Arsenal. Intellectual Investor's gone 3-1 Arsenal. Eli's gone 2-0 Arsenal. Gooner has gone with a 1-1. Josh says 1-0. Sam says 2-1 to the Arsenal. Nikomo 3-0 to the Arsenal. So yeah, lots and lots to get our teeth into, and lots of optimism as well in the chat, which is fantastic. T-Talks asks if we're doing the minute of the first goal prediction for a prize. Yeah, we will be, but we won't be doing it until the watch along later. So yeah, look forward to doing that, and I'll be giving away another copy of the book for those of you who won it last time. Those copies have been ordered for you today. I found that it was easier for me to order you copies directly from the publisher to your addresses rather than me getting more copies in and then going and giving them to the post, or going and taking them to the post office. So you should be receiving those within the next week or so. So yeah, thanks for taking part in the competition. And if you want to take part in this competition today, the latest one, then come and join me for the watch along at 7:45. I'll be giving away a copy of the Chronicles of a Gooner book, which was published at the end of Arsene Wenger's final season. So plenty of memories in there, plenty of nostalgia in there. It's yeah, I like to think it's an interesting read. So yeah, look forward to you guys joining me for the watch along and giving away another copy of the book. Right. That brings me to the end of the predicted lineup and predicted lineup, or my lineup and prediction show, I should say. And we'll be back later on for the watch along at 7:45 p.m. Come and join me for this one. It's a massive game for the Arsenal. Let's get behind the lads. Let's support the team, because this is huge. Could be season defining. So until later, take care, guys. Cheers.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.